presents American Freedom Radio.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by Archival Revival. Archival Revival. Okay, let me pull this up here. My ad copy here. Archival Revival is a Christian film archive, and what they're doing is they're paying for vintage Christian films, and they're dedicated to preserving and restoring these films so that these are films from the 30s and the 40s and stuff like that. So they want people today, young kids today, to be able to watch these films and receive the same benefits that they did 30, 40 years ago. Now, you can find these 16mm films, 35mm films, and you could find them at old church basements and attics. You know, you talk to your pastor of your church. It doesn't just have to be here in the United States, by the way. Anywhere in the world. If you're in the UK or Ireland over there, or South Africa, whatever you are, wherever you're listening today in the Opera Report, Archival Revival wants to buy these films from you to preserve them and convert them to digital. So you can contact them at archival.revival@gmail.com, or they have a blog spot, a blog, and it's at archivalrevival.blogspot.com. Okay? And then they want to purchase them from you so you can make some money. If you can find these old films, 16mm, 35mm films, they want to buy them from you. Okay, today's guest is Loretta Dillon, and she's written a couple of books here about the Scott Peterson case, the Scott Peterson, Laci Peterson case. You might remember. It's called Stone Cold Guilty: The People versus Scott Lee Peterson. So, Loretta, are you there?
I am.
Loretta, welcome to the show. How are you, Loretta?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Now, why don't you tell us about yourself? Who is Loretta Dillon?
Well, I was just a blogger back before there were too many blogs at all. Back in 2002, 2003, I set up a blog and started to write about true crime. And a couple of cases I was following were in California. One of them was the Andrew Luster case, which you might remember that one.
Actually, I don't. Refresh my memory. Who was Andrew Luster?
Andrew Luster was the Max Factor there. You know, the Erickson Max Factor.
I remember now, yeah. Dog the Bounty Hunter found him. Yeah.
Right. Dwayne Dog the Bounty Hunter found him. And he was on trial for videotaping and raping women in Malibu. And so he finally got caught, and then he jumped bail and was convicted in absentia. And then he came back, and now he's in prison. But I followed that case because I had a secondhand connection to his mother. I knew a woman who was friends with his mother, and you know how you get involved in things kind of out of faith. So meanwhile, I read about Laci Peterson going missing on Christmas Eve. And immediately I thought, well, she's a very low-risk, victim. She's very low-risk. She's got a great family. She's not a criminal. I figured, her husband probably killed her.
Wait, Loretta, let me interrupt you for a second, because what kind of phone are you talking to us on here?
I'm talking to you on an iPhone. Is it really bad? You want to switch to Skype?
Yeah, it's really, really bad. What, you got Skype?
Yeah, I got Skype.
Okay, do you want to give your Skype over the air, or do you want to email it to me?
No, just Skype me. It's okay. Let's see. I can Skype you.
Oh, yeah, Skype American.
I can call you.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Danny.
Ed, I'll go ahead and get her off the air on the phone and give her the Skype.
There you go.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Let me write it down and call you back, Ed. Hold on. Let me call you back on my Skype.
Oh, wait a second.
Okay, lock that up.
Okay, all right. Okay. Danny, you got that, right? Okay, yeah. So we'll be talking today to Loretta Dillon. The book is about Scott Peterson and Laci Peterson. If you're a young kid, I didn't even look up what year this was, but Scott Peterson and Laci Peterson was quite a while ago. I forgot to ask her what year it was, but I followed this case, forget it, galore on the internet. I was involved in all the, especially back then in those days. I used to be every day on Court TV, had a message board, and AOL used to have these message boards discussing these cases and following these cases. I was really active in that. And it's kind of funny. One of the people back in those days, too, so many of the people that we used to chat with back on those message boards back in those days have now gone on to careers, like our guest today, Loretta Dillon, wrote a couple of books about it. But one of the people, especially if you're here from Vegas, is Heidi Harris, the right-wing radio talk show host. She used to be on Court TV message board, and her screen name was The DJ, okay? And she was on there all day long. A real character, man, always arguing with everybody. And couldn't get along with anybody. And you kind of hear the same story going on right now. She can't get along with anybody at the station either. She's always going from one station to another. So I don't know if she listens to my show, but good old Heidi Harris from the Court TV days. And then they had the guy who was the moderator, Coldwater, on Court TV over there back in those days, keeping everybody under wraps. But Laci Peterson, Scott Peterson, was way back in 2002 when Laci Peterson went missing, and there was a bunch of it was carried on in, what do you call it, the Nancy Grace show, 24 hours a day, and then finally, when she was still missing before they had enough evidence to arrest Peterson, and then finally her body turned up at this at the bay up there, San Francisco Bay, and they had enough to arrest Peterson. Very long trial. Are we back yet, guys? No? Don't forget emailrevealer.com. Go to emailrevealer.com. Get a copy of my book, an autographed copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator, and also all kinds of different investigations we can do for you, adoption investigations, locates, asset searches, email tracing. Back around the time of this case, I was doing a lot of email tracing investigations and internet defamation cases. Where people would give me an email address and I would need to locate and identify the person behind the email address. That was a work I did a lot. I might be talking about that during the show today, because I actually did a little bit of work on this case with some of the people involved in this case. Okay, I think we got Loretta Dillon popping up on our screen here, unless I lost Danny too. Because I see her on my Skype.
Yeah, it's still ringing.
Still ringing? Okay.
Still ringing? Yeah.
So we're waiting for Loretta Dillon to join us here on Skype to discuss her book, Stone Cold, The People versus Scott Lee Peterson. It's interesting. I had done some work on this case with some of the people involved in this case, let's put it that way. And I guess that Mark Garagos had ultimately gotten a look at my report, because after this, he had actually referred clients to me several times over the years after this. So I know he liked my work. And it was mostly email tracing work and stuff like that. One turned out to be for a big celebrity client of his that I can't talk about, but someone I don't even like, to tell you the truth. And then another one was, oh boy, it was an interesting, that was an interesting case, by the way, too, because this woman was being cyber-stalked and harassed online. And when I traced it back, we traced it back to the suspect we had. We knew who was doing it, and we were able to trace it back to the suspect we had. And then when we caught him, he was doing this at a period of time when he was admitted to a hospital.
You hear me now?
Oh, we got him.
Okay.
Hey, Loretta Dillon, how are you?
Hey, great. Sorry about that, Ed. I have the world's worst phone service here.
Oh boy, that's so much better. Okay, so
I know.
Well, why don't we kind of yeah, it's way better. Yeah, why don't we kind of start off? Tell us about yourself again. Who is Loretta Dillon?
Well, I was just blogging back in the day when Peterson was caught. When Laci Peterson went missing,
right.
And I was just doing a blog on various crime stories. And there weren't very many crime blogs at the time. There were some crime forums like Web Sleuths and Court TV. Remember when Court TV had a big site and they had lots of stories?
Yeah, I was just talking about it. Now, you were on Court TV in those days?
Well, I was posting on Court TV in those days, yes.
What was your name?
I don't even remember. Honestly, I kept getting kicked out.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I was just saying before. Well, you remember Coldwater, the moderator, Coldwater?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, I was.
She kicked me out on a number of occasions. I had to keep changing my username, and pretty soon we had a joke going on. We had a running joke on my blog that every time anyone got banned from court TV, we'd have a celebration. So we'd play the French national anthem and put up a little thing called Banned and Proud, because we all got banned out of that place.
Yeah, those are the days. Those are the wild. And,
that was a crazy, crazy forum, definitely.
Yeah, it was a kind of more of a Wild West kind of a message boards back in those days than you have now with the Facebook. Because now Facebook, people use their real names. So they kind of,
right. You couldn't hide behind anonymity. Right, exactly.
Right. So
and there were sock puppets, just like there is now. You know how Trump complains about fake news? Well, Court TV had a lot of fake news.
That's the truth, man. That is the truth. So now what happened? You saw Laci Peterson on TV?
No, I didn't. I was actually at church. I used to play in an orchestra that played in a church, and because I'm a musician, and I heard this woman talk about that a woman had disappeared on Christmas Eve from Modesto. And I actually had a niece and nephew who lived in Modesto, so your ears perk up. And I looked into it, and I thought right away, I looked into it in the Modesto Bee, and it was really pretty much a local case still at that time. And I looked into it, and I thought, obviously a low-risk girl like Laci Peterson, who's not involved in any shady things, and they look like the perfect American couple. I figured, okay, he did it, right? I mean, we all thought that. But at the time, I was just speculating about it, and I'm just writing my opinions, and I had absolutely no followers. I didn't have any kind of audience at all. But within about 2 weeks of my starting to write about this case, and it was just my opinions and my analysis of what was happening with the talk shows and things like that, I started to, attract an audience, because they would find me while they Googled the case, because there really wasn't a lot of press on it in the beginning. So I all of a sudden attracted this audience, and some of the people that I attracted were from Modesto, and they would send me emails, and they would post on my blog comment section various things that were going on locally. So they knew about Scott, and they knew Laci, and they were, there were a lot of inside people who were interested in telling us what was going on. And so suddenly I started to attract this audience, and instead of, just treating the blog like some kind of lark, I actually took it very seriously, because I thought, well, I'm going to do a more thorough reading of this. So keep going, and 4 months later, the bodies surface, and he gets arrested, and he's, sitting in jail waiting for trial. Then Mark Garrigus shows up as his attorney and, says he's stone cold innocent, which is where I got my title, because instead of stone cold innocent, I said stone cold guilty. And I started to follow the case by actually going in and reading all the motions and all the, everything that was filed on the case prior to the preliminary hearing and then prior to the trial. So I actually went home at night and read all the case documents, and then I would post a little analysis of them every day that I had access to it. And so I started to really take it seriously. And I had some lawyers in California who were following my blog and would send me legal analysis that I was able to, use. And then I actually bought the law books and read those and started to take this case pretty seriously. Eventually, the readers that I had, several of them lived in California, and a woman in San Francisco sent me an invitation to stay at her house during the trial. So she invited me, and I went out to San Francisco, and I stayed in her house for a week during June when the trial started. And then I, of course, had to go home. And I came back again in August and went to the trial again. And then I went home. But throughout that whole period of time, we had about 40 or 50 people that were contributing to the conversation. And then I started to attract thousands and thousands of readers, including the Justice Department, the FBI, Stanislaus County, San Mateo County, Los Angeles County, all these, law enforcement agencies were reading my blog, which was kind of scary. And then, of course, we attracted a whole group of Scott Peterson groupies who had started their own site called ScottIsInnocent.com. And the woman running that was from Sunnyvale, California. So there was a whole group of crazy people who still to this day are defending Scott Peterson.